Hey guys, this is Phil Ratana at Action Martial Arts. Today we'll be talking about punches and ways that you can practice them and really try and perfect them. So we're going to get into some of the nuance of it. We're going to start with the horizontal thrust punch. Okay, I'm going to go into my horse stance for now. And keep in mind the horizontal thrust punch means when you strike, your knuckles are lined on the horizontal plane. Okay, so a few things to keep in mind. When you're punching, notice I'm chambered back. You're chambered at the height of my elbow. So that means if I relax my arm down, my elbow would reach about there, okay? So you're chambered, your knuckles are already pointed at the target, ready to fire. If you're chambered too high, they tend to dip a little bit, and if you start too low, your elbow's not being bent, they don't have very much energy. So the perfect positioning is where your knuckles are staring right at the target, directly aligned straight ahead. Okay, now the next thing to keep in mind is to keep your shoulders fairly relaxed and keep your fists closed just enough to have the proper form. I don't want you to have them loose because if you make impact incorrectly, you'll hurt yourself. I don't want you to squeeze tight to the point that your arms are going to get fatigued out. So enough to have your form. Okay, now with your shoulders relaxed, as you punch, note that you're tracking along your rib cage so it almost resembles, an arrow gliding along a bow. When you strike, you'll go forward, 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 and at the very tail end, you'll twist violently. Okay, so you want to maximize that torque. That's one of the primary functions of chambering, is not as it's storing power to launch ahead, it's storing torque in the wrist, for the elbow, and so later on as you fire other weapons, you're going to have more torque at your disposal. Okay, so in this case, make sure you don't use the torque too early, because at that point, by the time you hit the target, you'll have exhausted that energy and it'll be too late. So let's practice for a moment. Now I'm going to punch with both arms straight ahead of me. So they're right dead set at 12 o'clock. Okay, notice the first two knuckles will be the ones that we point to the targets that make impact. If you happen to have x-ray vision, you can see at the first two knuckles there, those metacarpals, those are more dense, bigger, heavier bones. So when you strike, they're less likely to collapse or get injured. The last two tend to get injured more easily. If you're in doubt, go look up boxer's break or boxer's fracture, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Very common injury. Okay, so as you punch, you relax, you go forward, at the very end you twist, and that's when you exhale, and you tighten. Okay, it's that brief moment of impact that all the muscles squeeze tight. To complement that, make sure you use your breathing. Okay, one more time. See? Okay, now the last detail that I want to emphasize in terms of posturing here is that your elbow. You don't want your elbow to lock out 100% because that could hyperextend your joint. So you want to stop slightly bent. Okay, so your muscles will squeeze just before you commit 100%. If the target happens to move, you won't hyperextend in an effort to reach the target. So that's also a healthy way to practice when you're not making impact on a target, so you're not wearing out your joints in the long term. Types of punches. So in this case, we're talking about the horizontal thrust. So keep in mind that what we classify as a thrust punch, it means it goes in a straight line and it locks into the target briefly. So you have full commitment of energy, in other words. Okay, whereas a variation would be the horizontal snap punch. So if you want to retrieve your weapon more quickly, you bounce it out real fast like that. So notice the relaxation factor, right? If you're tight, it's like you're putting on the brakes and trying to drive the car, and at the same time, all that's happening is you're basically fighting yourself. So keep your arms relaxed, so when you strike, you only make a commitment at that point of impact where the muscles tightened, and you're relaxed again, ready for the next move. Okay, so now let's talk about alternating with your punch. So, as we deliver the thrust punch for now, in this case I'll start with my right. Okay, notice that the left one is chambered and ready to fire out. Okay, so it's at this point, don't you learn how to alternate in such a way that you take full advantage of opposing forces. So that means that when I chamber this back quickly and this shoulder is traveling backwards, it's causing the opposite shoulder to accelerate forward. Okay, so I don't want you to chamber first and exhaust that energy and then punch. Okay, we tend to think of "and then" as a dirty term in Kempo because it means you've hesitated or waited or inserted a commercial break. So what I want you to do is draw this back with the next punch simultaneously. As you draw back, it will speed up the opposing movement. Keep a close eye on the torquing effect though. Torque only at the end. You breathe out. At that point, all of your muscles are locked in strong. You have to keep in mind that there's different basics for different targets in different situations. So it's kind of like having different tools in the bag. You don't always need a sledgehammer for every job. In this case, a thrust punch is the perfect punch for, say, breaking a rib. A snap punch might stun the opponent and allow you to move into a secondary action more quickly. Okay, so a thrust punch would look as follows. A snap punch would bounce back basically faster than it went out. Okay, as you keep practicing and working on mastering this, Make sure you're also working on your breathing and the proper way to relax your muscles. I'm Phil Rattana at Action Martial Arts in Springfield, Missouri. I hope you enjoyed today's video and that you keep tuning in for more information.